11 million sounds like a massive number, right? Well, did you know that's how much information that's constantly fed to your brain for processing, which is overwhelming and difficult to manage? And for our brain to work efficiently, we often categorize people and situations unconsciously, which also impacts our thoughts and beliefs about people. Hi, everyone. Let's explore this concept further and talk about unconscious or implicit bias. In order for our brain to manage the amount of stimuli our senses constantly feed us, it goes on autopilot to determine what and how to respond at the subconscious level, and consciously only processes about 50 bits of information per second. The unconscious brain takes care of the rest. This process also works when we think about people. We unconsciously make associations and have beliefs and attitudes towards people or social groups, which are our conscious or unconscious biases. It's a function of biology, how our brain works, and our exposure. Some biases might be harmless, but when they're negative, it can lead to false assumptions or discrimination about people. Add the narratives fed to us through family, media, and our social groups, which is our exposure, and we've created our personal biases. We all have them, because if you have a brain, you have a bias. Let's see how easily we react based on our biases.
I still make mistakes. I do this work all the time. I think about it all the time. I write books on it. I write articles on it. I travel around the world giving these talks and presentations, and I still make mistakes. Now, if this stuff called diversity and inclusion is on my mind 24/7 and I still make mistakes, guess where that puts some of you, right? Let me share with you one of the mistakes I've made in the past. Because of what I do, I fly a lot. Last year, I put on over 200,000 miles in the air, just traveling to various places across the world, mainly North America, giving talks and presentations like this one. But the curious thing about that is this: I have a fear of flying. Obviously, it's not so bad that I don't fly, but it's bad enough that it makes me do a certain thing when I do fly. And the certain thing I do is this: as soon as I step onto an airplane and look onto the flight deck, when I look onto the flight deck, who do I see flying the planes? White guys. And over I would see white guys flying the planes. Over and over I would see this, and after a while of seeing this, what is my mental model of who flies planes? White guys, exactly. I want white guys to fly the planes I'm on. It's worked very well for me in the past, right? So that's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm expecting every time I step onto a plane. But one day, a few years back, I stepped onto a plane, looked onto the flight deck like I always do, but this time I saw a woman. And my gut reaction was, oh, crap. Now, I share that story with you to get this point across. We all have those types of gut reactions. We all have those types of gut reactions when we encounter things that do not fit our mental models.
While having biases might not automatically be problematic, when we allow them to negatively shape our thoughts or interactions with others, it can cause discriminatory responses. Let's see how we categorize people based on our biases, which can lead us to negative thoughts.
I was asked to show my ticket to make sure I was sitting in the right seat when no one else around me was asked to show their ticket. I guess it was assumed I wouldn't be flying first class.
I was asked to provide proof that I could be in an upscale neighborhood, even though I own a home here.
Your jokes about us or being good at math, they just aren't funny.
I was denied a home loan in a neighborhood that was considered undesirable, even though I have good credit. Now it's a neighborhood being gentrified.
I notice people feeling uncomfortable around me because of my ethnicity or religion. I'm not a terrorist, nor do I know any. I had to change my name on my resume. Otherwise, I don't get called in for interviews. And this happens all the time, so now I call myself Bruce. It makes a difference.
These thoughts happen when we use our subconscious or fast brain, which is automatic, instead of our conscious or slow brain, which is logical. Let's try to experience being in our conscious mind. First, eliminate any distracting noise and I'll walk you through the exercise. Start with taking deep breaths to quiet your conscious mind. For 90 seconds, you're going to close your eyes, completely voiding your mind, and focus only on your breathing. Are you ready? Begin your 90 seconds now. Were you able to focus only on your breaths, or did you also notice noises around you, lights flickering in the back of your eyes, or how your body is positioned? The other things you noticed were automatic responses. It's often difficult to only operate at the conscious level because most of our thinking is at the subconscious level. To move into a state of more conscious awareness and in recognizing biases, you must be intentional. How? First, by recognizing what your blind spots are. Look at the exercise you completed called Identities to Explore. In that exercise, you discovered some of your blind spots, identities that you don't know enough about, those you're uncomfortable associating with, social groups you've heard negative stories about, and identities you're unsure of how they would respond to you. All of those represent your blind spots. None of us are immune to having some of these negative biases, but we can intentionally shift our perspectives about people. We do not have to accept negative narratives we've been fed or stereotype people because of experiences we've had with one or a few. We can choose to change our perspective. Another significant action we can take is to challenge our beliefs when we receive opposite information. Let's listen to how belief perseverance can stop us from exploring other truths.
We're not born with a set of values in our heads or attitudes, okay? We learn that through our experiences. We learn it through the people that we hang out with. We learn it through the neighborhoods that we've grown up in. If you understand this piece, you'll start to recognize something that you probably see all the time but don't take much notice of. And it's this, that people with different sets of experiences can receive the same data and information and walk away with very different interpretations. Does that make sense? Yes. Right? That's why one person with a certain set of experiences, lenses, and filters can read a story in the newspaper about race issues and say, wow, that's a significant race issue. I think we need to deal with that. I think we need to respond very quickly. While another person with a different set of experiences, lenses, and filters will read the same story in the newspaper about race issues and then say, they're just playing the race card again. Very different interpretation, correct? Now the question becomes, which interpretation is the right one? Which interpretation is the right one, do you think? Neither or both. Probably the best answer is they are both right from their perspective. Exactly. They're both right from their perspective. Now, we need to understand some things about perspective taking. Okay? As you probably know, we will fight for our perspective. And sometimes we will fight to the death for our perspective. That's how wars get started. Okay? Here's something you've probably noticed, again, don't take much notice of though, is this. We will fight to the death for our perspective even after we find out we're wrong. Right? Even in the face of contradictory information that we can no longer refute, we will try to find a way to hold on to our position. Right? It happens so much that in psychology we have a concept, a term for it, called belief perseverance. Belief perseverance. It's very difficult for us, any of us, to give up strongly held beliefs. Okay? What we tend to do is we tend to change the data that we receive to fit our model of the world. We don't generally change our model of the world to fit the data. What we tend to do is we gravitate and navigate ourselves to people who think like us, who have the same values. We go to those types of sources who reinforce us. Who do we stay away from? People who disagree with us. It leads us to ask certain people out to lunch and not others. It leads organizations to hire and promote certain folks because they fit and not others.
Another action is to change your experiences. Download the worksheet, My Inner Circle, and let's explore your network of people that you choose to associate with. Think about the top 5 people outside of your family circle or coworkers that you interact with. What are their identities? What is their ethnicity, their gender, age, and sexual orientation? Take a few minutes and complete this exercise. Who are the people in your inner circle? Do they look more like you or less like you? It's often called similar to me or like me bias. We tend to surround ourselves disproportionately with people who are similar to us. And when we keep ourselves within our familiar bias, we fail to expand our circle and begin to learn more about people who are different than us. So, today, I'm challenging you to push past your biases and explore people who are in your blind spots. Proactively look for positive attributes about people that you're uncomfortable with or don't know enough about. You might be surprised.